Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us read the verse 33. Shreyan Dravyamayat Yajnat
Shreyan Dravyamayat Yajna
Jnana Yajnah Parantapa
Jnana Yajna Parantapa
Sarvam Karma Akhilam Partha
Sarvam Karma Kilam Partha
Jnane Parisamapyate.
Jnane Parisamapyate.
He Parantapa, Dravyamaya Yajnat Jnana Yajna Shreyan. Yajna involving Dravya. Well, involving the body or the mind or the speech or the sense organs. Yajna or any action which is performed at the level of anatma. That's the whole idea. Karmajan vidditan sarvan. So any yajna or any karma performed at the level of anatma, compared to that, the yajna in which no anatma is involved, no action is involved, either at the level of body or the speech. What is involved is simply offering the ignorance and notions which brings about the freedom from identification with anatma. In all those yajnas, Karmajan vidditan sarvan, may you know them to be born of karma or anatma. They are all a result of the identification with anatma, where a sense of kartrutva, a sense of doership is involved. Even though it is act of worship, therefore an exalted act, and still that also involves a sense of doership, that I am performing this action, which also arises from identification with the body or the speech or the mind, or all of them. So compared to that action, which perpetuates the identification with anatma, which perpetuates the sense of kartrutva or doership, which is a result of ignorance. And therefore, an action performed with the sense of kartrutva or doership, since it is born of ignorance, because the doership is born of ignorance, therefore that action cannot free me from ignorance. Therefore Lord Krishna said that while that action is performed, may you recognize or see the fact that all action is performed at the level of anatma, and use that action as a means of self-knowledge or contemplation upon the self, that who am I? I am Atma, nirvyaparoham. All the vyaparas or activities are taking place at the level of non-self. Who am I? I am the very witness. Actionless self I am. So that becomes Jnana Yajna. Shreyan Dravyamayat Yajnat. The yajna or the action performed at the level of anatma, which involves sense of doership, and it will involve. And it has its own role to play. We discuss that role. Its role is to bring about the Antakarana Shuddhi. where the kartrutva also is progressively made from tamas to rajas and rajas to sattva. So antahakara shuddhi or purification of mind means the karta becomes the sattvic karta, becomes the selfless performer of action, becomes the devotee of the Ishvara. And therefore, he is a very tranquil, pleasant karta, but still karta, nevertheless. Even a sattvic karta also is karta. Which is that kartrutva is product of ignorance, therefore some identification is involved. Therefore the next step is from that sattvic karta to akarta. That's the whole purpose of performance of karma yoga. You can say that these different yajnas described earlier are all karma yoga. And the purpose of karma yoga is to slowly transform the karta or doer into sattvic karta. Karma yoga cannot eliminate karta. Karma yoga means performance of action with the spirit of yoga. So the performer of the action remains, karta remains, is sattvic karta, no doubt. So now is a step to transcend the karta. We can transcend the karta or the doer provided the karta has become sattvic karta. We can create distance with anatma. We can create distance with karma, provided the mind has become sattvic. The karta has become sattvic, the mind has become sattvic, then only the distance is possible. Then only this kind of contemplation is possible. Nirvyaparoham. I'm nirvyapara, I'm actionless. In that sense, sarvam karma akhilam partha. Hey partha, all the karma, jnane parisamapyate, culminates in knowledge. Karma can lead to knowledge in this manner. By first bringing about the purification of mind, because of which the mind becomes contemplative, because of which the mind is able to create distance with anatma, with the body, speech, and the mind is able to then appreciate the fact that all action is performed at the level of non-self, and that I am the nirvyapara, I am actionless self. Jnane parisamapyate. So purpose of karma ultimately is so that it culminates into jnanam or the knowledge. Here Bhashyakara explains it somewhat differently. Sarvam karma akhilam partha, hey partha, all the karma in its entirety. Jnane parisamapyate is included in knowledge, that's what is meant here. It is the meaning given here. The second chapter, there was a verse which said, Yava nartha udapane sarvatas samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanesya vijanatah. The purpose that is served by small little wells in the bed of a river in summer, you can get a little water from there. All of that is included when the river gets flooded in the monsoon. Similarly also, all that little happiness that you get from performance of various karmas, all that gets included in the ananda that you get when you recognize the nature of the self, limitless. So there's also a meaning of this verse that whatever outcome the karma produces, all that is more than included in the result of the knowledge, which is limitlessness, which is moksha, which is ananda. And for that, Bhashyakara quotes here a statement from the Chandogya Upanishad, where there is a little anecdote of a sage whose name was Raikva. A poor man living under a cart. Raikva, who lived under a cart. And at one point in time, this Raikva happened to be in the kingdom of a king whose name was Janashruti. The Janashruti was a very pious king, very generous, charitable, taking great care of his subjects, and his fame was known all over. He was a very famous person, famous as a virtuous king. So the Upanishad describes that once this king Janashruti was lying on his bed on the roof of the palace. Must be the summertime. At that time he sees some hamsa, the swans passing by in the sky. There Bhashyakara says that there are some devatas who must have come to bless the king. But one swan says, "Hey, take care. Realize that you are flying in the kingdom of King Janashruti, whose aura is so spread that if you cross that you may get burned, therefore watch out." See, the other swan says, "What are you talking about, Janashruti? What virtue does he have? Do you know this sage Raikva? The sage who is lying in the cart, you know that sage Raikva? You know his virtue? Yatha krutaya vijitaya adhara iyaha sanyanti." Adharayaha. So, referring to the game of dice. Different dice are there. Imagine that there are 4 dice. One die has 4 marks on its face. Other die has 3 dots. Third die has 2 dots. One die has 1 dot. The die having 4 dots is called Kruta, standing for Kruta Yuga. The one with 3 dots is called the Treta. With 2 is called Dvapara. With 1 dot, the die is called Kali. In this game of dice, the person who gets the die with the 4 dots on the face, so Krutaya, Vijitaya, when you win over this Kruta die, then all the ayaha, rest of them, and they're all naturally included in the die with the 4 dots. Naturally, the other dies, 3, 2, 1 are all included. That's the example. Similarly also, whatever virtuous deeds all the people do, all that gets included in the knowledge that this Raikva has. Meaning in the knowledge, all the virtue gets included. Meaning all the karmas get included in the jnanam. So that is the meaning that is given by Bhashyakara of the second line. That all the actions in its entirety ultimately becomes included in jnanam. Or as we say, we can say that all the karma culminates into jnanam. If sakama karma is there, meaning when a karma is performed with desire, then it produces virtue or punya. And it produces certain amount of happiness, which all of that can be included in the happiness of Ananda. That is understandable. But in the context in which we are discussing here, all karmas are nishkama karma, that alone can be called yajna. So nishkama karma brings about not karma phala, brings about the antakarana shuddhi, which brings about the purity of mind, which creates contemplativeness of the mind, the desire for knowledge in the mind, which ultimately culminates in knowledge. In that sense, we said that all the nishkama karma culminates into the knowledge, as we discussed earlier. So, thus now, the whole discussion is shifted from karma to jnanam. Sarvam karma akhilam partha jnane parismapyate. Hey partha, all the karma culminates to jnanam. That's the purpose of karma yoga. The karma yoga leads to the knowledge. Tadetat vishishtam jnanam tari kena prapyate iti. This knowledge, vishishtam, highly estimable knowledge. Knowledge is most exalted. Kena prapyate, O Lord, what are the means of attaining that knowledge? If that question is asked, it's going to be asked naturally. When a statement is made that all the karma culminates into jnanam, and also it is said that yad jnatva mokshase karmajan viditan sarvan evam jnatva vimokshase. You will become liberated by this knowledge. Meaning knowledge is the means of liberation, knowledge is the means of moksha. Knowledge is the means of the ultimate goal, the parama purushartha. And that is the exaltedness of the knowledge. Karma also is exalted. But karma, however great it is, in itself cannot lead to moksha. For the simple reason is that moksha is not something to be attained. Karma is means of attaining what is not attained. You can create something which is not there. You can reach some place where you are not. You can transform one state in that carry out modification, vikara, or samskara, purification. In short, karma is a means of attaining something which is unattained. Whereas moksha is not unattained, understand? Moksha is already attained. Because moksha is the very nature of the Atma, very nature of the self. Vedanta teaches that Tattvamasi, you are already liberated. You are liberated as you are. Which means that moksha is your nature. Is not to be attained, is to be recognized. It is true that recognizing my own nature requires a given disposition of mind called antakarana shuddhi, purification of mind, and requires also the teaching on the part of the teacher. As a result of it, the knowledge takes place that I was always liberated, nitya muktoham. The knowledge of the wise person is not that I am liberated. His knowledge is, liberation is my nature, I was always liberated. Even when I thought that I was limited, I was bound, even then also I was liberated. Meaning that bondage was a notion, not a reality about the self. And therefore, moksha or liberation is not liberating the self from bondage. is simply removing the notion of bondage. However, with knowledge, nothing new is accomplished. It is the knowledge of what is already accomplished. Praptasya prapti. Attainment of what is already attained. Knowledge simply reveals what is. And thus knowledge reveals the true nature of myself. Inasmuch as right now I am suffering from lot of notions and misconceptions about myself, the knowledge removes those misconceptions and enables me to see my true nature, which is freedom. That is the reason why knowledge does not create any action, any result. Knowledge never creates anything. Knowledge simply reveals what is. And karma creates something. Knowledge reveals something. So what is ultimately required in our life is not attaining something which I have not attained, but recognizing something which is already attained, recognizing my true nature. That recognition does require a certain disposition of mind. That recognition does require the teaching, no doubt, which creates a right disposition of my mind to see my true nature. And therefore the knowledge is called the most exalted inasmuch as it is a means of the Paramapurushartha, the ultimate goal that I am seeking. Every human being is seeking moksha, knowingly or unknowingly. And knowledge is the means of that ultimate goal. Therefore, it is the most exalted. So now, after description of all this karma in the spirit of yoga, that now the Antahkarana Shuddhi has taken place, that arises the jijnasa, vividisha, desire for knowledge. Now, knowledge becomes very important. Ideally, knowledge should become the only priority. So, the Antahkarana Shuddhi should take place up to a point where not only there is desire for knowledge, but that is the only desire. Then the scriptures sanction that now you can give up all your duties and responsibilities and every involvement you can give up if you want, and totally dedicate yourself to the pursuit of knowledge. So therefore the next stage comes now. And so the question arises, tat etad vishishtam jnanam tari kena prapyate iti. Oh Lord, this exalted knowledge, the highly estimable knowledge, how does one gain that knowledge? In reply to that, Lord Krishna says the verse number 34. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Tad vidhi. Vidhi, may you know. Tat means that. May you know that. Now what is that? Bhashyakara says, Vidhi vijanihi yena vijana prapyate iti. Here Arjuna, know from me that vidhi is the process by which you gain the knowledge. So, may you know the process by which you can gain the knowledge. So before gaining the knowledge, one has to go through that process. How do you gain the knowledge? The second line says, Upadekshandi te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Jnaninaha, the wise people. Tattvadarshinaha, again, darshinaha. Those who see tattva, the truth. So that does not seem to be much difference between these two words. We'll talk about the difference. But jnanina, tattvadarshina, these wise people, these great sages, the great teachers, te jnanam upadekshanti. Here Arjuna, they will give upadesha, they will impart the teaching. They will teach you. So ultimately, knowledge is gained when we gain the upadesha from the wise teacher. But how do you get that upadesha? So Lord Krishna described the process by which the right condition takes place when the wise, knowledgeable and wise teachers impart knowledge to you. Which means that a teacher does not impart knowledge to anybody and everybody. A teacher imparts knowledge only to the one whom the teacher thinks is fit or qualified to gain that knowledge. When a certain relationship has been established between the teacher and the student, the guru and shishya, when the condition conducive for imparting knowledge and receiving the knowledge, it's not enough that the teacher imparts the knowledge, it's equally necessary that the student is able to receive that knowledge. Which means a right disposition should be created in the mind of the teacher, that the teacher is motivated to impart the knowledge. In mind of the student also, the right condition is created that he is able to receive and absorb that knowledge. So this is what should first take place before the actual imparting of knowledge takes place, or for the teaching to become effective. So tad viddhi. Here Arjuna, may you know from me that process by which the right conditions are created when the teacher is motivated to impart the knowledge and when the student is ready to receive and absorb the knowledge. So Lord Krishna means that between the time that you approach the teacher and the time the teacher imparts knowledge to you, something has to take place. At the emotional level, primarily, and then at the intellectual level. So, a bond should be established between the student and the teacher at the emotional level as well as at the intellectual level. And for that, the basic burden is on the part of the student. So Lord Krishna says, Arjuna, first become the aspirant, become the student, become jignasu, become the one who wants a knowledge. That's the first condition. But here, having performed all these different yajnas, or perform karma in the spirit of karma yoga, when the purification of mind has taken place, when the desire for knowledge has arisen, Sad Vidwan Upasrupyatam, says the Sadhana Panchakam, that when you approach a wise teacher, how do you approach? So Lord Krishna described that process in this verse. Pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. All of these are in the third instrumental case. They are all instruments of sadhana, the means. So these become the means. So tadvidhi, Arjuna, may you know the means by which the teacher will impart the knowledge to you. Meaning that know the means by which the right conditions are created for the teacher to impart the knowledge and for the disciple to receive and absorb the knowledge. So what do you do? First is pranipatena. What is pranipataha? Prakarshena patanam. Pranipada patanam, falling down. Pranipada pratakarshena patanam, nichaihi patanam. Very well falling down on the ground. Dirgha namaskara, meaning that one must become totally flat on the ground. It's called like danda. Like a stick or a staff. Your body becomes like a danda. It's called dandavat. Like a danda, may you prostrate to the teacher. So a long prostration to the teacher. Now that looks like a formality. As though I perform the formality of prostrating to teacher. But when Lord Krishna says pranipata, dirgha namaskara, the long prostration involves the entire personality. Urasa, shirasa, then the whole body touches the ground. Your head also touches the ground. Your shoulders also touch the ground. Your feet also touch the ground. The mind also is completely surrendered. And with the speech also you utter the right words. So it's also called Sashtanga Namaskara. The Namaskara of prostration following Ashtanga, all the 8 limbs of your head is touching, your shoulders are touching, your body is touching, your hands are touching, your mind also is involved, speech also is involved. So thus your entire personality is prostrating, is surrendered. This is the mark of surrender to the teacher. And surrender comes from Shraddha, or the trust in the teacher. That here the disciple has the trust that I am in the right place. He takes refuge unto the teacher. The teacher becomes a refuge, becomes his benefactor, his protector, his well-wisher, his guardian. And thus, the disciple, the teacher of the student becomes a disciple who, like Arjuna did, hands over the Saratyam, the drivership, the charioteership to Lord Krishna. From now on, you are my charioteer. You are the driver. Meaning that you are the leader. And I will do whatever it is that you want me to do. So spirit of surrender is involved. Shraddha is involved. This will be stated later on, Shraddhavan Labhate Jnanam. Bhakti is involved. So even though the act is at the physical level, but the physical act of long prostration involves the entire personality, where the student takes the refuge of the teacher. By surrendering, we do not mean that you become slave of the teacher. No, surrendering that comes out of compulsion or out of a need, out of willingness. When here this student feels, aspirant feels that I am in the right place, he is the right person, trustworthy person, that my trust is well placed. He is quite confident that I am not going to exploit because there is no agenda. Recognizes that teacher has no personal agenda at all. And that being the case, I am the only beneficiary, he has nothing to benefit. In this relationship with the teacher and the disciple, only recipient is the disciple. Teacher is essentially the giver. And the student is the recipient. And he becomes recipient because he offers himself at the feet of the teacher. And teacher willingly imparts the knowledge. So, this Dirgha Namaskara, Ashtanga Namaskara, is a mark of surrender, which is a mark of Shraddha, the trust on the part of the student, and bhakti or devotion and reverence on the part of the student. This reverence for the teacher also is a very important thing. The reverence is the uniqueness of the Vedic culture. That in India we revere people. A teacher is not only respected but revered. There is a bhakti bhava, there is also a bhava of like devotion. The reverence is built into our life. Whether a person is older in age, older in wisdom, older even in austerities, Vayovruddha, Knyanvruddha, Tapovruddha, all of these are elders, not necessarily by age. All of them are respected, all of them are revered. So is also reverence. The reverence which is what opens the channel between the teacher and disciple to receive the knowledge, then there is no resistance there. When Shraddha is there, then we will discuss Shraddha in the verse when it comes. But thus, Tad Viddhi Pranipatena, by Dirgha Namaskara. Pariprashnena Sevaya. The order is Pranipata, Pariprashna, Seva. It's called Pathakrama. That's the order in the text. The Arthakrama, the order of understanding should be Pranipatena, Sevaya, Pariprashnena. Having offered myself at the feet of the teacher, next step is Seva, serving the teacher. In those days, the teachers, I guess, needed this service also. And I don't think there will be some 1500 disciples or 50 disciples, even just a few disciples. Maybe one disciple who willingly, readily, happily offers himself in the service of the teacher. Meaning he is willing to do whatever the teacher needs. In the beginning you may not know what the teacher needs. So the teacher may have to tell you what it is that he needs. And slowly, as you become more and more acquainted, come closer and closer, you recognize what the needs are, and then a time comes when you don't need to be told what the need is, you know it without being told. That's called the Uttama Shishya. The most exalted Shishya, the disciple or servant, is the one who does something without being told because he understands what the need is. The middling one is the one who does when told what to do. The lowest one is does not do even when told. So these are three categories. Here we assume that here is the disciple, the first category, sevaya. Seva means service, basically physical service. I guess teacher must be already an old person and disciple must be a young person, healthy. Our Bada Swami used to describe, typically, teachers may be not around here, you have to go to Himalayas, you have to go to some remote places. And the teacher may be living on the bank of the Ganges. And he may have a kutia which is on the, when you say bank of the Ganges is no bank. You have to climb up on the hill someplace, that is where the kutia may be. Disciples may live with the teacher or around the teacher. And so there is no water supply there, you have to climb down to where the river Ganges is, for example, and fetch the water. And that place is always cold round the year. It's so cold, colder and coldness, that's how it is. So you fetch the water, you have to warm up the water, prepare it for the teacher's bath, make all these preparations. Go out for bhiksha, bring the bhiksha of the teacher, feed the teacher first, and then after his permission you eat. So whatever the teacher needs is what the disciple does. He is able-bodied person, fit person, able to take all the whatever strain is required and willing to do that. So sevaya. Why is this seva included here? Well, that creates a personal bond with the teacher. That brings you close to the teacher, emotionally also. Because you observe the teacher, you understand the needs of the teacher, and you respond to them willingly. In that process, it is quite likely that you have to set aside your own needs and give priority to the needs of the teacher. So that self-surrender, self-sacrifice automatically involved. But as Swami would say that these teachers, old people, they sleep late and wake up early. So disciple doesn't go to sleep before the teacher goes to sleep. He should wake up before the teacher wakes up. Imagine. And so poor fellow doesn't get enough sleep anyway. And before the teacher wakes up, he fetches the water and warms it up and keeps everything ready. So, some sacrifice is definitely involved in the part of the sevak or the servant to the student, which the person willingly does. And the teacher recognizes how devoted this person is, how caring the person is. That means teacher feels valuable in the eyes of the student. Either student, teacher is valuable, and teacher recognizes how he is valuable in the eyes of the student. So this creates a personal bond, this seva. That's the emotional bond. Prostration more at the intellectual level, surrendering, etc., having faith, having trust. Seva brings about an emotional bond also. So when now the situation is ready, tamaradya gurum bhaktya prashva prashray sevanehi, says Viveka Chudamani, tam gurum bhaktya aradhya, serving, worshipping the teacher with devotion. Prashva prashray sevanehi, with the right attitude in the mind, with the right words in the speech, and right actions at the level of body. The serving the teacher at the level of body, speech and the mind. Gurum bhaktya aradhya, thus worshipping the teacher through its entire personality. Prasannam tamanuprapya, finding the teacher is pleased. So this is a process of, as Bhashyakara says, prashrayena avarjitaha acharyaha swadhinikrutaha vashikrutaha sevaya guru shushrooshaya evam adina. So by serving the teacher through body, through the speech, through the mind, and whatever is required, depends on the teacher, depends on the needs. The teacher may be a scholar also, working on something, may require the disciple, come on, go to library, do this research, whatever is required. Do this show, get this message, I don't know. So whatever is required, this person is willing to do. And that way, Guru Shushrooshaya. Seva here is Guru Shushrusha, this serving to the teacher. Prashre avarjitaha acharyaha swadhinikrutaha vashikrutaha acharyaha. When acharya is vashikruta, he is won over. You know the heart of the teacher. The disciple wins over the heart of the teacher. Prasannam tamanuprapya, we find that the teacher is pleased with you. Understand that you don't need to do anything to please the teacher because teacher is supposed to be pleased anyway. But this is a specific kind of pleasure that teacher has. When the teacher finds that here is the right student, a student who is right or fit for imparting knowledge, that makes the teacher mighty pleased. Tadranno bhuya nachiketa prashta. The Kathopanishad we are told that King Yamaraja says to Nachiketa, may we get an inquirer like you. So Nachiketa so pleased Yamaraja. He was so pleased with Nachiketa. He said, hey, we are waiting for someone like you. So teacher also, they say, also waits for the right kind of students. Not that teacher is under pressure to impart the knowledge. But still, we are always happy to see someone really gaining fulfillment in their life. And Upanishad says also that when a right student comes, then teacher should impart the knowledge. So teacher becomes pleased when he finds that here is a disciple who is ready for knowledge. This is what we find in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also. That famous episode, incident of Sri Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi. When Yajnavalkya addressed Maitreyi and said, hey Maitreyi, I have not decided to enter the sannyas ashrama, meaning that I am going to leave home. And I made provision for both you and Katyayani, so that there is nothing to worry about after my departure. So then Maitreyi asked this question, that revered sir, you are leaving this money for me so that I will not have to worry about things. But suppose the entire earth full of riches, the entire earth full of riches is given to me. Tena amrutasyam, may I become immortal by that wealth? Amrutatvasya nashasti vitya, sage Yajnavalkya says, O Maitreyi, there is no hope of gaining immortality through wealth. Then Maitreyi says, what need do I have of this wealth? Yanaham namrutasyam, that by which I am not going to immortal, kinatenam, kim tenam kuryam, what am I going to do with that? I don't want this wealth. The Venerable Sir, what it is that you know the means of immortality, please tell me that. This Maitreyi turned into a Jignasu right away. So Yajnavalkya says, I always loved you, you are always dear to me. But today you are especially dear to me because I see in you an aspirant, a Jignasu, a desire of knowledge that creates a special kind of happiness in the teacher. Prasannam tamanuprapya. When the disciple finds that the teacher is pleased, pruchet jnatavim atmanah. That is when one should ask the right question to the teacher, pariprashnena. So pariprashna is a prashna or a question covering everything. Kuna bandha, kathamesha agatah, katham pratisthasya, katham vimokshah, kosavanatma, paramah atma, tayor vivekah, kathametaduchyatam. A question asked in the Vivekeshwaramani. Kuna bandha. Oh, Venerable Sir, please tell me, what is this bondage? Kathamesha agataha. How did it come in my life in the first place? Katham pratisthasya. How come it remains? The bondage having come into my life, how does it perpetuate? Katham vimoksha. What keeps bondage going? Katham vimoksha. How to become liberated? How to become free from this bondage? And the teacher said it is by the Atmanatma Viveka. Kosavanatma. Please tell me what is the nature of Anatma, non-self. Paramah Atma. Please tell me what's the nature of Paramatma. Tayor Viveka. And how to discriminate the Atma from the Anatma. Edaducheta. Please tell me that. This is a question that includes all the aspects. Katham bandha, katham moksha, kasya kena vimuchyate. How did the bondage come? Katham moksha, how do we become liberated from this bondage? Kasya, for whom is this bondage? Kena vimuchyate, how does one get liberated from this bondage? Vidya, vidya, katham bhute. What is ignorance? What is knowledge? Koham, who am I? Drishyamidam chakim. And what is all this drishya? What is I and what is non-I? What is subject and what is the object? It's all pariprashna. A question that includes all the aspects of what you want to know. Koham katham baddhosmi kenopayena muccheyam ityadina. Who am I? How did I get bound? What's the means by which I get liberated? Etc. Pariprashnena, bahuvishayena prashnena. Not just one question. A question which has many aspects in there. The answer to which will be, which will give everything that the student wants to know. So, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So this vidhi, here Arjuna, may you know the process by which you gain the knowledge. This is a process. Process for creating the right conditions for you to gain knowledge. Knowledge only comes, as Lord Krishna says, upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. When you properly follow this process described in the first line of the verse of pranipata, seva and pariprashna, of offering long prostration, of serving the teacher and winning over his love, winning over his heart, and asking right appropriate question. Understand that the teacher here is the teacher of Vedanta. His competency is in Vedanta. So don't ask him all other nonsense, about astrology and about, birth charts and stuff like that. That's not his subject matter. His subject matter is self-knowledge. So ask a question pertaining to that. When this right condition is created, next line says, Upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. Jnanina tattvadarshina te jnanam upadekshanti. Jnanina, those who possess knowledge. Tattvadarshina, those who have darshanam or the vision of the tattva, the truth. So in order to, both the words seem to mean the same thing, so Bhashyakara makes a certain distinction between them. Jnanavanto bhi kechit yathavat tattvadarshanaशीलाः aparena. Means there are those who have the knowledge but still may not have abidance in the knowledge. So those who have knowledge, jnanina tattvadarshinaः, for whom that knowledge has become a reality. Those who abide in that knowledge. The Mundukopanishad said, tad vijnanartham Sagurumeva vigachet samitpanihi shrotriyam brahmanishtam. Tad vijnanartham. For the knowledge of that truth, Gurumeva vigachet, one should necessarily approach a teacher. Samitpanihi, with a load of faggots in his hand, which is what is meant here by pranipatena, by dirgha namaskara, by surrendering. By seva, all of this is included there. Symbolically, you take faggots because that's what the teacher may need if he is performing the homas, etc. So, tad vijnasa gurum agachet sabitpani shrotriyam brahmanishtam. There also the qualification of guru is given. Shrotriyam brahmanishtam is more clear. Shrotriya means one who is well versed in the scriptures. Brahmanishta, one who abides in the knowledge of Brahman. So here when Lord Krishna uses two words, jnanina tattvadarshinaः, in keeping with that Shruti Vakya of Shrotriyam brahmanishtam, jnaninaः shrotriya, those who are well versed in the scriptures, which is very important. Because teachers should have the art of communication. Our Fuji Swami used to say that the teacher should know how to use the words. An appropriate word. Not an inappropriate word, but not in only needed words, not unneeded words. Must be well versed in the art of unfolding the meaning of the statements of the scriptures. That is the role the teacher plays, enables the student to understand the tatparya, the purport of the statements of the Upanishad. That's called Shravanam. Shravanam means listening to the teacher. Meaning Atma Vichara or Shastra Vichara. Vichara, an inquiry, deliberation upon the statements of the scriptures. So teacher unfolds the meaning of the statements of the scriptures, by which the student understands the meaning and the tatparya, the purport. What is the intended meaning of those statements? That is called Shravanam. So Shrotriya, a teacher should be very well versed with the scriptures, with the parampara, with the teaching tradition, with also the facility of understanding or unfolding the scriptures, the art of communication. All of this is included in Shrotriyam, which is very important qualification. And Brahmanishta is one who lives that knowledge also. Ananya prokte gatiratra nasti, Kathopanishad says, Ananya prokte. When this is communicated by Ananya, one who is one with with what is communicating. Meaning one who abides in Brahman. So when Brahman is taught by the one who abides one with Brahman. And how is it taught? As the very self of the disciple. Then the knowledge does take place. Therefore, Brahmanishta, one who abides in the Brahman, meaning one who knows Brahman as his own self. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Jnaninaha Tattvadarshinaha, meaning Shrotriyaha Brahmanishtaha. Here these words are in plural. Jnaninaha Tattvadarshinaha, plural. It is only out of reverence. This plural is used out of reverence for these great people. Not that there are many teachers, or that you should have many teachers. One teacher is adequate. The right teacher then will communicate the knowledge to you. That does not mean you can never have more than one teacher also. That's also not the point. Important is knowledge. But here when Lord Krishna uses a plural for the teachers, he does not mean many teachers, he means the revered teacher. Will definitely upadekshanti. He will definitely impart the teaching to you. Meaning that know the process by which the aspirant creates the right conditions when the teacher is motivated to impart the knowledge to the disciple. So up to this point is the job of the disciple. So on that point is the job of the teacher. So that is how upadekshanti, that's how Arjuna, knowledge will take place in you. So tadviddhi, know that process, or know that knowledge, know that by which you gain the knowledge, that is through the teachers. So this is a very important verse in this chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna states very clearly how knowledge should be gained from the teacher. Although Arjuna does not need to be told that. He has already gone through this process. In the second chapter, when Arjuna said, Yashreyasya nischitam bruhishattanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. O Lord, Shadimam, please teach me that by which I will gain nishchitam shreyas, nishreyas, moksha. Shadimam tvam prapannam, I am surrendered to you. Prapannam, prapatti, or surrender, which is what is meant by the pranipata. Pariprashna, yashreyasat nishchitam bruhitanme, please teach me that by which I will definitely gain the nishchitashra moksha in my life. And the seva also is presumed here because Lord Krishna is pleased and readily imparts knowledge to Arjuna. So Arjuna has gone through this process. Arjuna does not need to be told this, but this keeping with Arjuna as the nimitta, all the aspirants or seekers are taught the process of how to gain the knowledge, how to create the condition when the knowledge is imparted to the disciple. Om. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.